Welcome to Sideline Sisters, where we empower women in sports one conversation at a time. We celebrate the women who make the WNBA legendary while providing our unfiltered thoughts and analysis on the game. Winsider is expanding its network to include more diverse voices that are knowledgeable and passionate about the WNBA. Hear from the women who are redefining WNBA coverage and hoops talk.
I'm Jasmine Harper.
And I'm Ace Pedraza, and you're courtside with the Sideline Sisters. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sideline Sisters. We are your hosts, Candace, Pedraza, and Jasmine Harper. Jazz, how are you doing? How has this week of WNBA action treated you?
Yeah, so far so good. I'm liking what I'm seeing for all of the girlies. Everybody's showing up and showing out, especially the rookies. I like how they're keeping it pretty consistent throughout the season so far. So yeah, definitely some good basketball being played. How about you?
Yeah, same here. I feel like I have been happy that there have been so many like East Coast games since we last spoke. So it's made it a little bit easier to catch some of the games, especially over the weekend. I feel like there were a few good ones. Tonight is not like that, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But they're all good games. So kind of have to stay up for those West Coast games. So yeah, I'm very, very into the season so far, except I would like us to crank the injury machine completely all the way off, because
Absolutely. Turn it off right now.
I'm over it. Watching Courtney Vandersloot go down was not fun. She's just one of several, I feel like, injuries that have happened so early in the season that is just hard to swallow, hard to process. But yeah, we do have a few people coming back, which is nice, at least. A few key players that are returning from injury this week include Paige Bueckers, who's been kind of off and on the court with a concussion, but then came down with an illness. She'll be back as well. And then something that I saw today, so we're recording on Wednesday, Alyssa Thomas and Natasha Mack, they were listed as probable for Phoenix's game against Dallas, which is huge because Alyssa Thomas is so key to unlocking the wonderful Jasmine fan favorite positionless hoops that Mercury play. So very nice to see her probably back tonight. And Natasha Mack, of course, is just such a big piece for them in the front court. So yeah, that's awesome. How do you feel about a lot of these returns?
Yeah, I'm glad to see Paige back. For one, I didn't even know that she got concussed in the game because she kept playing. So that speaks to her determination and stuff about being on the floor. So definitely happy to have her back. But I hate that it has to be on the same night that Alyssa Thomas is coming back because, again, the engine never stops. It always keeps going. So Paige, just make sure you're not in Alyssa Thomas's way. We don't need another angel moment, with the jersey pull and everything. So I'm happy to have both of them back, actually. Natasha Mack as well. I saw her in AT getting some shots up during halftime. Not halftime, during practice today ahead of the game, shoot around. So it was nice to see them back active and things like that, because for a while, some of the videos that we saw, they had limited basic motions, just walking around. They were hobbling, things like that. So definitely lovely to have them back. And we're going to get into the positionless basketball today. I'm just letting you know now.
It's coming. It has to be covered. And in addition to the injuries, obviously, I feel like the other big storyline from the past week or two has been just teams slowly announcing which players are going to be unavailable for the next couple of games for them because of Eurobasket about to kick off. Some of the big names include Tierra McCowan with the Wings. She'll be leaving. A lot of the Valkyries players, because many of those players are international players. Julie Van Loo, Cecilia Zandalicini, I believe Janelle Saloon is also going to be gone from the team. And we also have Jess Shepard, who's been low-key a sixth player of the year candidate in my mind.
She's been doing really well.
She will be leaving for Eurobasket as well. And a big one that actually came out today, who's not going to Eurobasket, is Niara Sabli with New York Liberty. That was reported that just because she got back from injury, I think last night, from a knee injury, does not want to exacerbate the issue. So it seems like she will be actually not competing with Germany in Eurobasket, but they will be without Leonie Fievich, who's a big part of their team. So they'll be without her in this last part of the Commissioner's Cup push, which should be a little interesting because they're one of two undefeated teams in the league. So we'll see what happens there. But they have a little bit of a softer schedule, I would say, than most to start this season. So that might be helpful. And the rest of their bench has been great, which we will also get into later on. But yeah, are there any names that you feel like really stick out to you as, okay, they're leaving. What is this team going to do without them?
Oh, Leo, off the bat. First of all, didn't even know she was leaving. I saw a small bit about Niara today, but I didn't get a chance to read like the full scale announcement of like whatever it was. So I think losing Leo is kind of tough, but that also opens the door for somebody else to kind of step in. You're missing Benijah Laney right now due to injury, and Leo arguably kind of like moved up into her spot, in the starting lineup. So to be without her for an extended period of time, I think that's going to be tough. And we're going to get into it like a little bit more about like stats and everything like that. But she is very impactful for the New York Liberty.
Totally agree. I think for me, definitely her. And I would say probably anyone from the Valkyries leaving, just because I do feel like they are on such a roll right now.
Yeah.
And so, especially with Janelle Saloon leaving, I feel like that's a lot of the defensive intensity and also the offense sort of leaving, which should be interesting just to see. But they made some signings, which we will also get into very, very shortly. But Golden State, I feel like I have a few questions to see how they kind of like hold up during Eurobasket, but I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be fine. So yeah, in addition to Eurobasket, there were some waiving of player announcements that happened since the last time we spoke. So Haley Jones, who was waived by the Atlanta Dream, she recently got picked up by the Phoenix Mercury, but she was unfortunately waived again just because they're getting healthy. So as a result, she was waived from the team. Ari McDonald, who Fever fans have like fallen in love with, it seems like, she is very likely going to be gone as well soon because Caitlin Clark may or may not be coming back this Saturday against the Liberty. Still don't know, but whenever she or Sophie Cunningham come back from injury, she will be waived and probably be a very hot commodity on the free agent market for teams in search of guard depth. Crystal Bradford just got waived from the Las Vegas Aces this afternoon, unfortunately. Kiara Linskins for Golden State. I think she was also going overseas, and so she requested, apparently, to get waived. It was her decision, so they honored it. And Sebji Bazoon from Phoenix with similar situation there, so just wanting to play overseas. Yeah, a lot of waves. A lot, we were just talking about before we started recording, there wasn't a lot that happened. A lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't. I think it all happened on like one day, and then we had like 2-3 days of like nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we did have a few pickups outside of those cuts, and they were both for Golden State were the big ones. So Aerial Powers is heading over to Golden State, which is really cool to see because I get her TikToks a lot on my For You page, and she literally every video that I've seen of her show up is just her working out and practicing and just obviously trying to make a roster. So it's really cool to see her finally be able to make one for the season. And Letitia Amahir is also returning to Golden State after getting cut. That was a kind of controversial cut that happened for Golden State because she was doing so well for them in the preseason, but she will be back because they are losing so many players to Eurobasket.
Yeah, Golden State, let's have a conversation really quick. I'm not going to beat your eardrums too long. So to cut somebody, and I loved LA's post on Instagram. She made it with the players on the team about that one X that spins the block and come back around. That's Golden State right now. This was your top prospect to be in a relationship with, and you decided to cut her. And I'm not going to talk about the other options that were out there, but the love interests weren't hitting as much as LA was, So to cut her, I felt like I got cut. That was a personal one because she, like you said, she performed so well in the preseason. It didn't make any sense as to why they would let her go. But ultimately, them bringing her back, I do like that. But it's like, let's not make the same mistake twice. Even in the signing of Aerial Powers, Personally, I don't really know the history of AP when it comes to her time her time in Minnesota. As we can remember from last season, her and Cheryl apparently were headbutting a lot, and we found that out. And then last year she played on the Atlanta Dream, and I guess she just wasn't asked back in this following season. So for her to end up in Golden State, I definitely think that is lovely to get back on the court. Like you said, I always see her like hooping or like on her streams working out or something like that. But I kind of want to understand these players a little bit better when they're in the league for a really long time, but then they have a couple years where they don't necessarily make the roster. Like, is that something that is only happening in the locker room? Or is it something like more where you just don't fit certain teams that are happening right now? But from my understanding, Ariel Powers has been or was one of the more impactful players in Minnesota when during her time there. So it is very interesting to not sorry, it is very interesting to see her not pick up with like another team immediately after moving on from someone else. So Golden State, I hope you do right by these two players, because they should have been on your roster from the beginning and not necessarily hardship contracts.
I completely agree. I feel like, especially with Golden State, like, not to say the entire purpose of adding an expansion team is so that this doesn't happen, but that
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like the
Yeah, it's
point of
part of it.
adding more teams to the league because there is too much talent across the
Mm-hmm.
WNBA where you need extra spots, you need extra teams in order to accommodate the level of talent that you have when you don't
Mm-hmm.
have enough roster spots to accommodate everybody. And I feel like that's a big part of why we're seeing Golden State, especially, kind of thrive right now because they have so many players who've never maybe been given as green of a light as they're getting right now. And they
Right.
have it and they are absolutely running away with that opportunity. And they look good. Golden State looks really, really good. I mean, and that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that Aces win was very convincing.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even watch that game, Ace. I forgot that game was even on. And then when my
It
friends text me was like, "Hey, do you see the score? Like, we haven't heard from you from a few hours." I'm like, "What score?"
oh
And then I go and look, and it's like, "Are y'all serious?
yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah,
Why does the latest back-to-back WNBA champion team have to be the one to give Golden State like that edge that they need to like just? I don't want to say demolish everybody else afterwards, but they've been going on a little streak, so it's done something for the ego. It's boosted something for sure.
absolutely. And I mean, we can get into that now because we wanted to talk a little bit about which teams have really been standing out to us so
Mm-hmm.
far in the season. We are through 3 weeks of action, and which teams are probably still disappointing us and standing out maybe in a negative way. And yeah, for me, Golden State is like the obvious choice just because, yeah, that Aces win, very convincing. I feel like defensively, they are one of the more disciplined teams in the WNBA. They have a really selfless mindset too, I feel like on offense. And that's allowed for players like Veronica Burton, for Kayla Thornton, for Janelle Saloon, even their other rookie, Carla Leitch, to just really thrive and be able to find their footing in the league so far. And so kudos to them. And that Sparks game was really fun too. The highlights that I saw, because again, I am sorry, my bedtime typically like 10. So I can't stay up for every single West Coast game unless it's on a weekend. Tonight, I'm going to make an exception, especially because Love Island's not on. But I am very convinced by this Valkyries team. I feel like they are making teams like Connecticut and Chicago look very foolish, I will say, because these are teams that have established cores or are close to some sort of identity or should have some sort of identity. And I feel like the Valkyries
Mm-hmm.
already have more of an identity than a team, especially like Chicago, which is really struggling right now. So
Yeah.
they're one of two teams positively sticking out for me.
I think that Golden State is finally finding their footing, which I can appreciate. I think those first few games they had were just I just think they were just going to be rough. You know, this is a brand new team. brand new coaching system. And that can be said for, a lot of things. I mean, a lot of teams right now. But ultimately, when it comes down to Golden State, everything is new. You're probably going to change your practice routine, your workout regimen. Like over time, as things become a little bit more settled, you're going to, things are going to shift for you. And I think Golden State is finally shifting into some upward motion. Thank goodness. We can't have our newest team in the league be like number 13. Even when people projected them as 13, I thought that was kind of like, damn, like that low. I wouldn't have given them anything past like maybe 10. They would be in like that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot or whatever. But yeah, Golden State has definitely, made believers out of us. Same thing with the Atlanta Dream. I wasn't for the everybody shooting threes. That didn't make sense to me. While we're talking about the Dream, I'm gonna pull up their 3-point stats. But right now they're 6-3, number 3 overall in the standings right now. Shout out to Carl Smesco, Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard, especially Nas Hillman. All of y'all have really been like boots on the ground, getting it together. The basketball has been pretty amazing. Even seeing BG shoot a little bit more has been like really nice to see, honestly. Brianna Jones as well. I feel like everybody on the team is trying to open up their game, become a little bit more consistent. Even in the mid-range, we're seeing players kind of like dominate there and take advantage of it. So I definitely think that Atlanta Dream are one team that are standing out to me right now. But I'm going to look up these stats real quick just so I can see if the method is really working.
Absolutely. While you're looking that up, important to note that Alicia Gray, as a part of this entire overhaul of the Atlanta Dream offense, has probably been the one to benefit the absolute most from the system, because she's shooting around the same number of threes, maybe almost one more than last year. Last year, she averaged 5.1 3-point attempts per game. This year, she's averaging 5.8. Last year, she only shot 34.2% from 3-point range. And I say only because that's a good shooting percentage from deep. But I say only because she's shooting 42.3% from 3-point range so far this year on the nearly same shot diet from 3-point range as she was last year.
That's what we love to see.
So it is at least benefiting her. She's averaging 5 points more than she did last season already. She's averaging another rebound per game than she was last year, 2 more assists than she was last year. So it just seems like, of definitely the Fever players that could have benefited, she's the one that maybe didn't even have to, but she has. And now she's probably one of the most improved players in the league as a result.
Yeah, really love what I'm seeing from Alicia Gray for sure. I've been watching her since I started covering basketball in Dallas. They were the first team that I covered for like 2 years, and she was on the team during that time. And I always saw, the potential in her to really just be that, not necessarily number 1 option, but a very solid and effective number 2. And I think her alongside Ryan Howard, and then you have Nas Hillman, who all 3 of them have like a really good friendship, but on the court together, like the synergy is like unmatched. So it's really great to like see all 3 of them like have success right now. But I'm extra happy for Alicia though, of course. 3-point percentage, Atlanta is 10th, shooting 31.1%. Right now, my Seattle Storm, yes, you heard that, my Seattle Storm. They are 37.6%. So they're not too far off. It's like a 6% difference or whatever. But that percentages are always a little bit more than what they appear to be. So I definitely think probably the shot selection of the Atlanta Dream is what needs to improve, and not necessarily the volume. So in terms of Atlanta's shot percentages, I do think they just have to make a little bit better selections when it comes to them. But overall, their volume is pretty standard. Nothing too much stands out to me. I just think everybody else is shooting better than them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And having watched like a handful of games for Atlanta, the shot selection, it feels a little bit rushed. And so I don't know if it's just them thinking too much about it, because it is something that obviously the head coach, Carl Schmesko, is like honing in on as a key part of the offense. But yeah, some of the shots are a bit rushed, especially, I mean, there are moments where I'm watching the team and I'm like, that could have been a pass, especially to the front court. Like Bree Jones is one of the better finishers in the league. Same for Brittany Griner. Like, it just seems like sometimes they're rushing those shots a bit. So like you said, I think once they just get better looks, the percentage will definitely become higher. by the season's end. So yeah, totally agreed. And yeah, same for me. Atlanta's a big one that sticks out to me. Like they have been a really consistent 3 seed that I feel like is not getting spoken about like an actual 3 seed right now. But they are definitely legit and definitely have the depth and the starting lineup to stay that way for sure.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize they were number 3 because again, I didn't realize it, and I'm looking at stats 24/7 every day.
Right.
So for them to kind of like sneak up in the rankings, like I think that like speaks to the testament of like what Smesco's doing for sure. But we have to get these 3 balls under control.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of teams or things that can improve, teams that have stood out negatively, for me, really just still Chicago. Like, I want them to be great so bad. And I feel like they have the pieces for the most part to make it work, but they are night and day from the team that they were last year. And I say night and day even after the Marina Mabrey trade. Like, this team doesn't have the same cohesion that I feel like I saw at least last season on offense, especially. I feel like the defense has been perfectly fine, and that'll always be the case when I think Angel Reese is on the floor for you. But it is just not getting it done. The 3-point shooting is still a problem. The shooting in general is still a problem for them. And now with Courtney Vandersloot out for the season, they have to hope that Haley Van Lith is able to step up and kind of get like baptized by fire, which I think is not great for her or for them. She hit her first 3 last night, of her WNBA career, which is awesome. So I hope that maybe helps her get going from deep because they could use her shooting for sure. But I think that some of their free agency signings, specifically, unfortunately, the signing of Kia Nurse, haven't really panned out in the way that I'm sure they expected it to. Rachel Banham hasn't been as effective as she was last year. And I just feel like Beck Allen is not utilized as much as she should.
Yeah. Ace, I wish y'all could see my fingers right now. I'm doing like a little clap. I literally have the roster pulled up to say the same exact thing. Like a lot of these signings are just not registering. There are a few, I'm going to say 2 to 3 specifically, who when the signings and moves were made, I was like, it's not going to work out if it's not done properly. Yep. And it's not working out because it's not being done properly. Like, I've never seen Rebecca Allen be misutilized. And we've seen her on Connecticut. Was she on Chicago in 2021, the championship team?
She was on Chicago for a time. She was with New York,
Phoenix,
Connecticut. Like,
yes, we've seen her hoop at all levels with different players, different teams, different stars. And for some reason this season, we just can't get any production out of her.
It doesn't.
It's frustrating. It's so frustrating.
It gives me a headache. And I was watching the Chicago game this past weekend against the Fever, and it was just so ridiculous to me how every time Rebecca Allen took the court, both sides of the floor got better because she's a great defender on top of being a really reliable shooter. And so they were able to have her and Angel Reese sort of playing off of one another, and it looked great. And then he would bring in Kia Nurse in place of Beck Allen. And each time it was just in really weird spots during the game. And I don't know if Tyler Marsh is like just trying to throw different things out to see what is going to work. I don't know if it's just like maybe feeling the pressures of, okay, like I'm a new coach for this team. And maybe the expectations weren't necessarily very high for the team this year, but this is like pretty rough of a start to the season. So now he's feeling a bit of the pressure as well. But I just feel like there are just these little things that could be improved upon that'll go a long way, like playing probably your best scorer and your best shot creator.
She is. She is.
It's unfortunate. Like, their answer is sitting on the bench. in Rebecca
Yeah.
Allen. So Chicago's upsetting me. Angel Reese is having a great, very solid year, especially with rebounding. As always, she can always improve as a scorer, and she's obviously been working on it too. But the team is the way the team is constructed is not doing her any favors, and it's just not doing themselves any favors. I feel like Ariel Atkins also has been like really good for them, but again, I need like double the Beck Allen that I've seen from Chicago so far.
I feel so bad for them for one, because they have Angel Reese, the expectation is so high. And then on top of that, you have Tyler Marsh, who's coming from under the coaching tree of Becky Hammond. You have Camila Cardoso. You have Courtney Vandersloot. You're trying to stir all of these things together. And I don't think the process was fully thought out. I really want to go back to like conversations we had in, I think, January, when Chicago traded the number 3 pick. And I was very adamant about, you need to build around Angel and Camilla. You drafted them at number 3 and number 7 last year for a reason. You want them to be your franchise players. You have to you have to get veterans around them who can, handle, communicate, lead, etc. But you also need to put other players the same age around them and develop them together. Form plays specifically for those players. Get some specific system dynamics that happen when these specific players are on the court. Because it's not even really given that. It's just trying stuff like over and over. If I know Angel, Camilla, Ariel Atkins, Rachel Banham, and Rebecca Allen always give me at least like 10 points on the floor together, I might go at that lineup for like the entire third quarter if I need to. I think that Tyler Marsh just needs to take like a step back right now and just try to figure out how he wants his team to play, because it's just getting worse and worse. And I don't think that Chicago, nor Angel Reese, nor Tyler Marsh necessarily deserves that. And they could be way better. You all had faith in this roster. You handpicked it and put it together. So I feel like you need to be like a little bit more effective with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I do feel like the pieces are there, but it's just a matter of getting out of this hole right now that they're in, where it just feels like they can't win any games. Like, that's a horrible feeling, I'm sure, to have, where you're coming into a game and everything's stacked against you. I mean, you're playing the Liberty in New York. They're undefeated. It's a Commissioner's Cup game. So it's just like the pressure's even greater at that point. And like, we know they could piece together really great performances. We've seen it a few times this year. But I agree. I think that it's just a matter of figuring out who they're going to be this season and establishing that expectation, because and then next year their draft pick is owed to Minnesota, or at least one of the picks.
And right now they're in
12th or 11th.
They're in 11th right now.
Yeah.
So that's a top 3 pick, baby.
Definitely
a crazy. Top 3 pick. Yeah, and speaking of things that are even crazier, the Dallas Wings are in last place.
Yep.
I hate to shout from the rooftop that I told y'all so, but I told y'all so. Like,
you absolutely
Paige Bueckers is that girl, but the Dallas Wings are not. There's a difference. She can't change everything overnight about that organization, and it starts from like the head down. Understand that Greg Bibb like handed over the reins to Kirk Miller, but this season is giving very Greg Bibb-esque or whatever, like it still feels like he has his hands in the pot some kind of way, because if it was just straight Kirk, we've seen the success in Connecticut. We saw a little success with the Sparks as well, but 1-9 to start the season is like abysmal. This is jarring, disgusting. Everything under the umbrella, because like honestly, you're just going to end up in a lottery draft again next year. And what are you going to do with that if you can't already do with Paige, the number 1 pick, who everybody, no matter where she went, that's probably one number 1 overall pick in like a while, who people would have taken, like her, Caitlin, Asia, like different number one picks. Some people are willing to like take them on, other people aren't. I feel like Paige is somebody who could fit in like literally anybody's system. And if you aren't gonna like utilize her right and put her and the team in the best position to win, I don't understand why you drafted her. Because then at that point, it's just given all about the money and the marketing, which I know the team isn't like necessarily pushing out there. But the wins need to reflect the dedication and the time that you all say that you've put into the franchise now, because it's not reflecting on the court. It's not reflecting at all.
I agree with everything you said. It's also just confusing because even if you're looking at their stats, like I just pulled up all the team stats in WNBA right now, like the Wings are not like the worst in any like traditional category. Like they score a decent amount of points, they grab a decent amount, like they're decent in all the like very traditional stat categories. But I think it's the process that they have during games, especially just based on the fact that I just feel like did not build well enough around that backcourt. And specifically, it just doesn't feel like a backcourt of Paige Bueckers and Arike Ogumawale can like survive past this season.
Yeah. And now Ty Harris is hurt, which is your backup point guard who was, I think she could have started, but I understand like the Paige effect. Like you got to let her go. So even with Ty Harris hurt right now, you have a Paige that's coming off of injury who's about to face Alyssa Thomas. And your backup point guard is Isaiah James or JJ Kennerly.
I believe
maybe
so.
JJ. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not going to be enough right now. And I don't think that outside of Paige, we're not really trusting rookies to kind of like lead the offense right now. Otherwise, JJ Kennedy would have been starting with like Paige and Arike or something like that. I think Erin McDonald should get a call.
Oh my
from
gosh.
Kurt Miller whenever her time is up with the Fever, because like they need help. And right now, I'm not saying that Arike Ogumawale can't do it, but she's not doing it. Like, she's preserving self, which I understand. But at the same time, like, if this is going to be a wash season, like, it's just a terrible look in my opinion. This was something I was afraid of when they drafted Paige in the first place. And it's kind of coming to fruition. Like, 1-9, you're only 10 games in right now. Don't think you could turn it around so drastically to move up to a playoff spot before the end of the season. That just has to be like on some like you're going like 20-10 on those 30 games. Like it's not gonna happen. So like I feel bad for Dallas in a sense and a lot of their fans, but at the same time, like I think people need to be a little bit more realistic about things, especially basketball when it comes to like the Dallas Wings. Historically, they haven't been successful. So I understand why people thought this season might have been different, but this might be worse than last year. And last year they were 11th, and that was still bad. Like, they went on like a 9 or 10 game losing streak. Like, ooh.
Yeah. Right now, just taking a quick look at Tankathon, Dallas has the top pick in the draft again. So
they're about to bring AZ. I can't. I don't want this for them. This is not conducive to a healthy work environment. Okay.
And
wow.
I think for me, another big like issue is that they don't have consistent front court play, and that's always going to be the difference maker in this.
Go ahead and bring her up. Go ahead.
I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to bring the topic up. Tara McCowan is going to Eurobasket, and Alyssa Smith has not been an amazing signing for them so far this season. So front court help should be definitely what they're looking for. Either if they are trying to make this like magical push, then at the deadline. If they're not, then in the draft, if they do stay within that top 3, because there's always great front court options in the draft, typically, especially that high in the draft. So,
well, even still, they had Madison Scott and they cut her. Like, it just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Crystal Bradford did, like we talked about earlier, she got waived from Vegas. So Dallas, if you need a big for a little bit, like let's get sister on the phone. Let's figure something out. Cause, just talking about the playoffs and things earlier, like I said, I don't think Dallas can come back from this in enough time. I don't care if they had 40 games to come back. I don't see it for them. And I say this respectfully, by the way. In terms of like the playoff landscape, I feel like numbers, and I'm only including number 3 being Atlanta because I'm still a little skeptical. Like when we get midway to the season, when we get midway to the season and the standings kind of line up, I feel more confident in the playoff picks. But really, like numbers 3 through 8 right now can all pretty much like vary. Everybody's played about 7 to 10 games at this point. So it is very interesting, like how it's all going to play out. I do think that, that last spot that probably AC is probably up for grabs between Golden State, Washington, and the Sparks. Sparks are also very disappointing right now, 3-7. Mentions are that out there. But I think that last spot is definitely up for grabs. But Chicago, Connecticut, and Dallas, I think, we're just going to put it in rice till next season and just see how the draft lottery goes, sister.
I'm here for that. I agree. Unfortunate, but very true. On the flip side, let's talk about the 2 teams that have been nothing but positive to start this year. So much so that they're both undefeated. The Minnesota Lynx and New York Liberty are both 9-0 as of, like I said, we were recording Wednesday evening, so before Minnesota's game. At 10 against the Storm, which should be a good one just because the Storm seem to be figuring things out and finding their footing. And so New York, of course, their schedule is a bit easier this Saturday. They do play Indiana, but they may or may not have Caitlin Clark. So that'll be a big sticking point whether or not they make it another, I guess, close game or if it will be resembling what Indiana just experienced in Atlanta.
A blowout.
Exactly. So, just a few questions that we have about these undefeated teams. The first one, probably the biggest one, can they stay undefeated? Can they keep it going? Specifically, can they stay undefeated until these 2 teams presumably meet up in the Commissioner's Cup?
And when is that? It's August or late July?
I believe that is late July. And yes, so that is going to be, just kidding, it's the earliest of July. It's July 1st. So
I thought people were saying they played like 3 games back to back or something like that. Or were they exaggerating?
So they play a bunch of games against each other in like late July and early August. But the Commissioner's Cup final is July 1st, which could technically be the first time that they link up this season.
I wouldn't be mad at that. I could take that. I wouldn't be too mad at it.
But not in the finals. You don't want them going back to the finals.
No, I'm sorry. Unless we're going to clean up the basketball that was being played, I don't want to see it. Even like one of the Aces Liberty games when they played, when we won and everything, like it was like so. I think it was the last game because Ryan Ruocco said the no on the Courtney Vandersloot shot, and like that game was so disgusting. Like it was so mucked up and dirty and gritty. I was just like, please get off my TV. Like, and I understand sometimes that like people enjoy that kind of basketball. I like when they kind of exchange bucket for bucket. I don't need a bunch of 3-pointers. Like I said, y'all know me. I don't need a bunch of threes. No more than 32 per game, 8 per quarter. But overall, I do like when teams go kind of like bucket for bucket, bar for bar. They chat a little bit like Courtney Williams, Sabrina Ionescu when her eyes like went super big last finals when she hit that half-court shot. Like, yeah, I need the moment. Sorry.
That's fair. I feel like if they both keep it going and they both stay undefeated until the Commissioner's Cup, I could definitely see it being more like that. Like, I don't think it's going to be... I think both were very discombobulated in the finals because the expectations were so high considering they were the two best teams in the league. And so they were just trying to prove that the entire time. And we just needed them to be the best team in that game. Like, that's it. And that, I think, is what led to a lot of like the messiness, a lot of it coming down to ticky-tacky fouls that may or may not have actually been fouls in
on both sides
of the games. Yeah. So that was a very messy finals. It gave me my first experience with heartburn. I was in pain. It was not fun. Like, eventually it was, but it wasn't to get through, especially that overtime.
I do wonder, though, if they stay undefeated, who gets home court advantage? Ooh. Or do they go neutral? Like, I would love to see that.
Right, because I wonder if they take point differential into consideration when it comes to that, if they're both undefeated.
They would probably have to at that point.
And both have been kind of blowing teams out.
Yeah.
These teams. So we also know, obviously, the biggest contributors for both teams. For Minnesota, like Nafisa Collier is the biggest name that comes to mind. For New York, it's probably Brandon Stewart. Who else do you feel like is really standing out to you from these two teams that you feel like are helping to contribute the most to their undefeated seasons?
Yeah, so I'll go. Well, sometimes she comes off the bench, but Alana Smith is one of Minnesota's best 3-point shooters right now, along with K-Mac and Fee, which is very surprising, but also not too much because on the opposite end, Kennedy Burke, who sometimes like starts but comes off the bench, is also shooting pretty well for New York. I love the bench depth. I think that's one thing that stands out about the teams. I think that's why I get so frustrated when it gets so like muckied up, because you have the talent to have like a fiercely competitive game. And like Kennedy Burke, she's arguably like the first off the bench right now. And same thing with Alana Smith or Jess Shepard, but Jess Shepard is leaving for Eurobasket. I like the synergy and the chemistry that both teams have with each other. I don't know if everybody's seen the Stud Buzz stream with Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann, but like, yeah, they bring their teammates on there. Dejanay Carrington was just on there when the Lynx played Dallas. They really get along with each other. Fee was on there too. Fee said she wouldn't let her daughter date Courtney or Natisha. That was hilarious. But Diamond Miller, Alyssa Peely, like they are all together, like on the stream, having fun, supporting each other. And the same can be said about New York, especially now that they have Natasha Cloud. I think she also adds a level of synergy and chemistry to that team that makes them a lot more playful, messing around with each other a little bit more. And I also think that translates on the court with their attitudes. Like New York is playing a lot more aggressive and physical than I have seen them in like a really long time. And I like that. I like when somebody can pull like the dog out of other players. And I think Natasha Cloud is doing that. So I think overall, like they're having very good seasons right now. So I do hope that the first time that they meet is the Commissioner's Cup, because I would just love to see that just unfold.
Yeah, totally agreed. And like, again, agree to all those points, because I think the chemistry for their quote unquote role players, but I feel like all their role players for both teams are so much more than that. But I think the chemistry has been so key to both of these teams. And that's why I love that both Minnesota and New York really just kind of ran it back, save for like one or two moves that were like more in the margins. I feel like New York was obviously a lot more aggressive in the offseason, trading 2 first rounders for Natasha Cloud. So that wasn't necessarily a marginal move. You got a starting caliber point guard who's also according to ESPN, Defensive Player of the Year frontrunner. So yeah,
that's news to me.
ESPN named her the Defensive Player of the Year frontrunner. Kennedy Burke is their 6th Player of the Year frontrunner. Fees, of course, their MVP frontrunner. Minnesota.
I could probably accept all of that except for defensive player. And this is no shit at all. Natasha Cloud doesn't guard the best player on the court every game. You know who does?
That's valid.
Gabby Williams. 1 through 5.
Ooh, that's true. That is extremely true. Yeah, Absolutely. And I feel like she was not on
Sorry.
their... You're fine, because I agree. And I'm not sure if I remember if she was on that
No.
list.
I haven't seen her on anybody's list except mine, which is wild, honestly.
The Sideline Sisters ballot.
Literally.
We'll have her there. Absolutely, though. I totally agree. But yeah, I feel like the bench units both have been the most impressive parts of these teams. And I love Stud Bud so much. I love that they had the audacity to call Dejanay Carrington to essentially get permission to go flirt with Melissa Smith while on this stream. Beautiful moment. But I just very much adore the fact that both these teams made it to the finals and still found a way to improve. Because that's how you stay winning, and that's how you stay a contender. Specifically, just by way of watching more Liberty games since they are in market, like Kennedy Burke went from being, I think, a 25% three-point shooter last year. She's hitting 60% of her threes this year. And that answered the question of what are the Liberty going to do without Benigilini Hamilton and also Kayla Thornton off this bench. Kennedy Burke has essentially just taken over both of their offensive roles, and she's a great defender on top of that. Rebecca Gardner has been excellent for them defensively off the bench. Marine, very hot and cold, but when she's hot, such a great addition to the bench as well. So the benches are it. And it's funny that we both basically said the same thing in terms of what is standing out for both of these teams. So we shall see. I'm super excited to see if they make it undefeated to the Commissioner's Cup, because someone's walking out of there with a loss. So
yeah, I think that the home court advantage is gonna tell a lot.
Oh yeah,
I think that's, especially if it's in New York, like Minnesota's gonna have to play like on 10. Like on Twitter recently, somebody pulled up Fee's rookie game, her very first game, and she hit a step back three. And somebody asked her, they were like, "Oh, are you gonna add that back to your bag?" And she was like, "I blacked out. Like, I don't even remember doing that, and I've never did it again." That's how she's gonna have to play if that game is at Barclays.
Like, I don't even know who that person was. Absolutely, yeah, no, because Barclays just on a regular night is very, 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 very welcoming environment, but it's very loud, very, very loud.
Yeah.
Yesterday, when they introduced Coco Gauff, who was at the game, it exploded. Just
as it should have. Miss French Champion.
Like, and she said it after the game where she was like, I have literally never gotten a reception like that before in my life, which is ridiculous because I feel like everyone should be applauding when they see Coco Gauff.
Absolutely.
So that'll be interesting. And then on the flip side, if they're in Minnesota, that'll be the first time New York's playing in Minnesota since they won the finals on a bit of a controversial foul call in that game 5, which left a lot of Lynx fans and also the Lynx themselves pretty understandably frustrated. So that'll be very, I don't know. We shall see. That'll be...
Yeah. Everybody just needs to black out wherever they play. Just shoot the ball, black out.
And play clean game. No,
please, no
nonsense.
At this point, let's implement the NBA hand check. And if you're in my shooting space within 7 feet, I need the foul. Like, let's keep it clean.
Speaking of just both of these teams being led to such great heights, obviously they both have 2 coaches that are probably going to be considered in the Coach of the Year conversation. And I think both of us have both Sandy Brondello and Cheryl Reeve.
Actually, all 4. I agree with all 4.
Yeah. So, yeah, for myself, for Coach of the Year, very early, but just based on the play that's happened, I have Nate Tibbetts for the Phoenix Mercury, Sandy Brondello, Cheryl Reeves, and also Carl Smesco, because Atlanta is playing very under the radar and very well this season, considering that there wasn't a lot of hype behind their season in the off season. I said season a lot in that stretch of time. But despite them actually making really solid moves that, again, I'm sorry to bring up the Aces, and this will be the last time I bring them up on this episode. But, you know, making moves that I kind of wanted Vegas to be making in terms of getting Bree Jones and getting Brittany Griner, that changed a lot for them. And so shout out to him, because he is one of the very few new coaches that has been able to have a really great start to the season so far. And I think we agree on all those.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with all of them. Reeves and Brondello are easy, like, to understand. Don't really need too much with that. And then Nate Tibbetts and Spusco. I just feel like both of them are incorporating philosophies that a lot of people thought wouldn't work, including myself. I'm still going to be skeptical about it until the last game. But overall, what they're doing right now with the personnel that they have, especially even Phoenix, who their health, they've had like 4 or 5 players out within like the last 2 weeks, and they're still like number 4 right now in the standings. So that speaks to coaching, absolutely, and a really good bench who knows how like to play together, to look for each other. Nobody's playing selfish basketball right now. Everybody's kind of like spread out and sharing the wealth, and I really appreciate that. And you can see that in Atlanta as well with Spesco and the Dream.
Yes, 100%. And also touching on some like super early MVP chats, because of course we're 3 weeks in, so people are gonna have thoughts. Usually it's a little bit less clear than it is at this point in time.
My feelings are hurt, Ace. Don't say it. Okay, let's just talk about who's on the radar right now.
There is only one player to really talk about right now in the MVP conversation, and that is, of course, Napheesa Collier, who is posting just very ridiculous numbers. I think I saw that Rebecca Lobo had posted a screenshot that said that Fee is the first WNBA player to average a 50, 40, 90 stat line this early in the year, or at the point whenever she had posted that. I don't know if that's still true, but that just speaks to just how dominant she just started the season. I feel like she came out with her foot on the gas and just has not let up. I saw this coming. So I'm not super surprised that she just came out like this, but she is having just one of those seasons that it's undeniable. You cannot deny she is the most valuable player right now.
Yeah, and I think it's clearly her because of how much success the Lynx have achieved, but also like individually, like the way she's playing. Like, she's not a flashy player. She doesn't really do like a lot of extra. If she does extra, like, it's like, oh, Fee's like fired up. Like, what happened? I think she's a really efficient and impactful player on the court, and she sticks to like what she's good at. She doesn't really try to go like too much out of her lanes, and I think that her teammates, like, she relies on her teammates to do their job as well. And I think that's very important for an MVP, because, you know, you can't do it all by yourself. Even though you're the MVP, you know, things kind of flow through you, but it has to flow out of you as well. And I think she's put her teammates in a good position to win as well. Like, Courtney Williams is averaging, I believe, 6.4 assists per game. Some of those are going to Fee. She's cashing in on a lot of those buckets. And I believe that's the highest average of Courtney's assists in her career right now. So it's going to have to go to Fee as of right now. You never know. If the Aces can just ultimately just get it together, just bring it in a little bit. Like, I really think Asia still has a good chance. She's still like the number 1 player right now, averaging 22 points, 9.9 rebounds. We're going to get to double digits. Don't worry about that. But she's also had 2 30-point games since the season started. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 double-doubles already. So I just think that Vegas really needs to like get behind her and like stay behind her, as in like support her. This is your MVP. This is her team. And we're not putting her in a position to win. Maybe next episode we can really dive into Vegas and like break down what's going on and why they're not being talked about in a manner that they usually happen. Because it's not like they're really losing. They're 4-3 right now. They're number 5. But the basketball just seems like completely off. I'm not going to say it's a locker room issue because we don't know all of that. But I do think there's a disconnect between the coaching and the players for sure. Becky Hammond kind of spoke to it about how there's a heart and a mind issue, and she's not going to coach effort right now, and her even coming out and saying that, it's like Becky said that when she's one of the only coaches who ran a 6-player lineup for like 2 years straight, is saying that her players aren't giving her effort. Like, that's kind of shocking. So I think Asia still has a chance. I'm not even going to acknowledge any of the other MVP candidates that people are trying to throw up. We're just going to keep it with Fee and Asia right now because I feel like they're in a league of their own. But let's say like New York keeps up this really good stretch of games or undefeated streak, or, gets one of the highest win losses this season. Do you think there's a candidate that could come out of New York for MVP?
That's a great question. I feel like the only person that makes sense to me would probably be Brianna Stewart. Just because even though the 3 ball isn't there for her yet, and I don't know if it's coming back at this point, just because it has been a couple of seasons in a row where she's really struggled with her 3-point shot, she would be the one that I would look at just because she is putting up still really solid numbers. She is one of their more efficient scorers. She, like Courtney Williams to Fee, she is why Natasha Cloud has been able to put up so many assists as well. Right now, Sui's averaging 19 points a game, 5.4 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.2 steals. I don't...
This 3-point percentage, my goodness.
It's not good. It's not good. It's 14.8%. That 14%
is crazy.
Good. But then she's shooting 53 or 54% from the field, which is better than her career average. So that's the thing with her, where it's like, I trust her to finish at the basket. I trust her to hit her mid-range shots. It's just the 3-point shot that just isn't there, and it hasn't been there for...
That's fine, though. She doesn't have to take any more shots this season. Like, you got Kennedy, Leia when she comes back. Let Sabrina shoot threes. Even Jonquil. Let everybody shoot threes except for you. Just work the mid-range. Work the mid-range, sister.
I would say, honestly, though, now that you bring up Jonquil Jones, I think that
percentage.
She is...
Sorry. Brianna Stewart is shooting 67.5 and 2-point percentage.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, she's been super efficient. And I think that if not her, then definitely Jonquil Jones, who is unfortunately hurt right now. But like, she was playing MVP caliber, at least for the Liberty. She was their MVP, before getting injured. I think back to the Fever game that they played where things got dicey. She took over. And that's the thing with JJ, is that she just is very comfortable in those spots. She's very clutch. We saw that in the finals for 2 years in a row now, where she was kind of like their most reliable player in both of those series. And I would say her, definitely, actually. So I'll change my answer. I think it would probably be Jonquil Jones would be the MVP. If New York was able to throw... Yeah, barring health, if they were able to throw a name in that ring for MVP, it would be Jonquil. But I totally agree with you that it really is a 2-person race between Nafisa Collier and Asia Wilson, for sure.
Yeah, I can see the Jonquil bit. I just want her to be back healthy. I'm not going to speculate, but when I saw Coco in the locker room and they were, TikToking to I'm So ATL, I didn't see a boot on her foot. And she was kind of jumping around on whatever she injured. So I think we'll see her back soon. And she could definitely pick up where she left off. Because I definitely think she was giving people the business in the post for sure.
100%.
I don't know. Yeah. I really want to see her go up against they haven't played the Dream yet, have they?
They have not. No.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that Dream New York game, especially in the post. Brittany Griner, Brianna Jones, Brianna Stewart, Jonquil Jones. Yeah, I need that.
That's a fun one. That's so fun. But yeah, that's everything. We have 3 10 o'clock Eastern time games tipping off tonight, which is wild. I will definitely be tapped into that Minnesota Storm game the most. Probably a bit into the Phoenix Dallas game just to see how Alyssa Thomas is looking in her first game back healthy, assuming that she's going to be playing since she was probable. And that's it. But please do not forget to subscribe to the podcast, write a review. If you have any questions about the WNBA or questions to ask me or Jazz, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are on every platform, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Reels, I believe, as well. And you can catch us on anywhere that you get your podcasts, and you can listen to any one of the other wonderful Winsider podcasts as well.
See you next time, everybody.